Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got a very big update coming out regarding the ongoing peace efforts that the U.S. is involved in right now to try to end this war between Ukraine and Russia. New update here on your screen. U.S. rejects Russia's demand that Ukraine withdraw from occupied territories. American negotiators called this demand unfounded and unworkable and assured Kiev that they would not support it. It reportedly remains open to recognizing Russian sovereignty over Crimea. Okay, so this is a very big update regarding the Russian side now, as we've been hearing so much recently of what Ukraine is going to have to agree to. For example, talking about Crimea, we've been hearing that the U.S. wants to recognize Crimea as Russian sovereignty or Russian territory. So now we're going to have to see what Russia says when they respond to this, as the U.S. is completely rejecting their demand to push Ukraine out of these four other territories that Russia's currently fighting for right now. This would include Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and also Luhansk regions of Ukraine. Okay, so I want to go over this report and talk about this with you guys. And also, I showed you something this morning that came out from U.S. President Donald Trump, and he's starting to put pressure onto Vladimir Putin now. Okay, so I'm wondering if Russia's going to start moving forward a little bit quicker to try to end this war versus dragging this out, is what we've seen happening over the last few months. So I just kind of want to show you guys some information talking about the U.S. and how much pressure they're starting to put on Russia now, and we're starting to hear a lot about that. So here's from Yahoo News, originally from the Kiev Independent. U.S. rejects Russian demand for Ukraine's full withdrawal from partially occupied oblasts, New York Times reports. Okay, so originally came from the New York Times. Date here, you can see April 26, 2025. And it says right here, the White House so far refused to support a Russian demand for Ukraine to retreat from the entirety of four Ukrainian oblasts that President Vladimir Putin claims to have annexed. A participant in the peace talks told the New York Times in comments published on April 25th. The United States considers the demand an unreasonable and unachievable condition, the source told the outlet. The Kremlin illegally declared annexation of the four territories, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson Oblasts, following sham referenda in late 2022, incorporating them into Russia's constitution in a move that holds no weight internationally. Although Moscow has declared these provinces, along with Crimea, a Russian territory, it does not fully control them. Russia currently occupies about 20% of Ukraine's territory, including most of Luhansk Oblast, two-thirds of Donetsk Oblast, and around 73% of Zaporizhia and Kherson Oblast. So that's probably why the U.S. is not willing to recognize those territories as Russian, because obviously they don't control the entirety of either of them. And we know that Russia does control Crimea, which is why the U.S. is coming out and willing to recognize that as Russian territory in a bid to end this war. So it says here, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov reiterated Russia's territorial demands on April 23rd in an interview with France's Le Point, claiming that the goals of the Russian war have not changed. According to the New York Times, Trump administration officials told Ukrainian negotiators that the United States would not support Russian demands for restrictions on Ukraine's military size or capabilities, and would resist Russian control over all occupied territories. Okay, so we've heard about this already. I actually reported that to you guys yesterday. At the same time, the U.S. administration has pushed Ukraine to accept a freeze of the current front lines. It reportedly remains open to recognizing Russian sovereignty over Crimea, a position Kiev rejects. So that's what the U.S. is pushing for right now, is like a de facto recognition for Russia to control the territories that they currently have. So they don't have full control of these other four territories in Ukraine, but they do want to give them some recognition to an extent. So it says here, U.S. officials said Russia would probably keep about the same amount of land under any future deal. The New York Times reported, Ukraine reportedly suggested swapping some areas to strengthen its defenses, which Trump administration officials promised to support, but warned Russia may not agree. Meanwhile, European leaders in Ukraine continue to push for a peace framework that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty, saying that territorial issues could be discussed after a full and unconditional ceasefire. So there's more information on this article. I will cite it down below for you guys if you want to read the rest of that. Now we're going to quickly jump on over to X, and I want to show you guys a couple things over here. Now, if you guys saw my update video this morning for the Russia-Ukraine war, I did go over this post, but I want to share it with you guys one more time, just in case you haven't seen this. So from ViceGrad24, flying back from Pope's funeral, Trump writes he's starting to think Putin doesn't want to end the war and is just trying to fool him. Maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Okay, so Trump was allegedly warning Vladimir Putin that he might start putting financial or secondary sanctions onto Russia if Russia is basically just dragging this out, which we have been seeing that for well over a month now. So look at this statement here from Donald J. Trump on True Social. No matter what deal I make with respect to Russia, Ukraine, no matter how good it is, even if it's the greatest deal ever made, the failing New York Times will speak badly of it. Little Peter Baker, the very biased and untalented writer for the Times, followed his editor's demands and wrote that Ukraine should get back territory, including, I suppose, Crimea, and other ridiculous requests. In order to stop the killing that is worse than anything since World War II, why doesn't this lightweight reporter say that it was Obama who made it possible for Russia to steal Crimea and Ukraine from Ukraine without even a shot being fired? It was also Little Peter who wrote an absolutely fawning yet terribly written biography on Obama. It was a joke. Did Baker ever criticize the Obama Crimea giveaway? No, not once, only Trump, and I've got nothing to do with this stupid war other than early on when I gave Ukraine javelins and Obama gave them sheets. This is Sleepy Joe Biden's war, not mine. It was a loser from day one and should have never happened, and wouldn't have happened if I were president at the time. I'm just trying to clean up the mess that was left to me by Obama and Biden, and what a mess it is. With all of that being said, there was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities and towns over the last few days. Makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and it has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people are dying, okay? So all of a sudden we're starting to see a change of rhetoric here coming from the US President Donald Trump, and now he's actually putting pressure on Putin and saying, hey, if you're going to be wasting my time here and dragging these peace talks out, we're going to think about putting banking or secondary sanctions onto your nation, and this could potentially force Russia into agreeing to some sort of deal, as it could definitely collapse or make their economy suffer heavily, okay? So I just wanted to share that with you guys and let you know there are starting to be some changes coming out from Trump now. He's not completely appeasing to Vladimir Putin 100% anymore. He's actually starting to pressure him a little bit. And quickly, I wanted to show you guys this also. This came out just a couple of days ago on the 24th. So for Max24 journalists, why aren't you putting more pressure on Russia? Trump says, you don't know the pressure I'm putting. You have no idea the pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia. And then Trump also says, Russia's offer to stop the war and stop taking over the whole country. The fact that Russia hasn't taken over all of Ukraine is a big concession. So he was actually responding to another question from a journalist that was basically asking him, what concessions is Russia going to make? And that was basically the concession he was talking about. And this actually got a lot of backlash, this last statement here talking about, the fact that Russia not taking over all of Ukraine is a huge concession. That obviously is not a concession. But that was something that he did state there. So he's saying that he's putting pressure onto Russia, but he didn't state clearly what type of pressure they are putting on Russia. So it's interesting because just a couple of days ago, Trump was stating that. Now all of a sudden, now we're starting to see these posts come out from Trump putting the pressure on Russia and stating that they might even sanction them here very soon or put some restrictions on their banks. So just want to give you guys some updates coming out from this peace deal and the efforts that the U.S. is putting in right now. And we should hear some very big news coming out just this week. And I would assume that that Ukraine and Russia should agree to some sort of agreement by probably Friday. If not, we could hear some very big news that the U.S. might start walking away from these talks and will not help mediate to end this war, and possibly could even be withdrawing support from Ukraine. And that includes like military aid and intelligence, okay? So just want to give you guys a quick update on what's going on with this situation. Let me know what you think about all these details down in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.